There we go. Welcome back to the Lifting Life podcast. I nearly got it wrong. Told you I would. This time we have Liv, who actually helped me set up a podcast in the first place. I will not do an intro properly, and I'm going to ask her, for this time being on that side of the podcast, to introduce herself.
Yeah, it's actually really quick. Do you know, I have been on people's podcasts before, but not for a long time, which I think maybe says that people don't want me on their podcast. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm Liv. I'm an online coach, and I was one of Karen's clients for a little bit a few months ago. And I don't know what else there is to say about me. I now am on a bodybuilding journey, so that's really exciting. A bit of a change in training for myself, and obviously as a fellow online coach, we just sort of bonded over the highs and lows of being an online coach.
Perfect. So she's massively understated all of that. So we're going to go. How long have you been online coaching? How long have you been in the industry?
So I have been, I was a PT for 4 years, oh my God, now why has my mind gone so blank? I know all this. My life, I definitely know it. And I started doing a bit of online coaching maybe the year before lockdown, so maybe 2019. And then when COVID hit, I moved completely online, and then I ended up doing like a day or two of PT, but I basically was an online coach full time since COVID, so just over 2 years, but I've been an online coach-ish for 3 years now. So not in the industry that long, but it's felt like a long time. I feel like I've been in the fitness industry for a lot longer than I actually probably have.
So how did you go online and now you're completely online?
It's completely online now, which is a really different kettle of fish. And it's weird having designed my life to not have an office job and now to have an office job.
always have this chat where it's like, I want freedom. I don't want to live by someone else's job. I'm going to work in fitness. I'll never be in an office again. And now it's like 10 hours a day at a desk.
Literally. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And you're so right. Like, we both traded in 9 to 5 to effectively just work 24/7 instead.
Honestly, it's complete cop. Like, I swear, I thought it was going to be really different.
Why?
I love it, but still. Okay, so as you said, we know from, obviously everyone who's listening to this has listened to the podcast that we were in together on your channel, I'm sure. But you moved from powerlifting to bodybuilding. What was the big driver in the change for you?
A few different things. I think bodybuilding was one of those things I always wanted to try, but I was so terrified of it because I felt like people would think I was something I'm not. So I always kind of decided that powerlifting felt safer and something that I knew and something I'd done before and something that I kind of, felt like a safe zone. And powerlifting is such an amazing community of people. Like, everyone is so supportive. No one judges you. Like, I was not an elite level powerlifter. I was pretty normal human, and so, but no one ever judged me for not lifting a weight that was incredible. People would be just as happy about my 100-kilogram squat as they would about someone else's 200-kilogram squat, which I loved. Whereas I feel like in bodybuilding, I've always been terrified of that side of the industry because it is a bit cutthroat and it is ruthless and it is sort of such a different world that I think I've just always been a bit too scared to give it a go. But I think it is something that's always interested me. And then I had a few little niggles with my injuries. I found settling in some gyms around in the new area a little bit hard, and I just thought, like, what's a good challenge and something a bit different, just to kind of to reignite my focus and love for training, I guess.
I think there was a point when you were coaching with myself. How many gym memberships did you have?
I knew you were going to bring that up. I think it was either 3 or 4 at one point, which is
when you really love certain machines and you're like, oh, I'll go to that one.
Well, that's the thing, it wasn't, and like, that's the thing, like, I just use a barbell. I did not need 4, like, it was so over the top. It was, so I basically moved to the area, didn't know anyone, joined the local powerlifting gym and met loads of friends and people, but very cliquey. And I just decided to kind of a few days a week I wanted to train elsewhere. So then I joined another little gym, which was lovely. And I trained there sometimes and trained at the other gym sometimes. And then a pure gym opened and it was so cheap and 24/7. So I joined there. Basically.
So you found a gym that was really cheap and you thought, to save money, I'll get 3 gym memberships.
When I did the maths, I was like, this just makes no sense. And it was, I don't even know how I was justifying it in my head. I think it was one of those things where, like, it's a direct debit, so you just don't really notice it happening, and then you're like, actually, this makes no sense. And there was a point where I was like, I'm paying for you do end up only really going to 1 or 2 of those gyms. So it was just stupid. You'll be really proud of me. I now only have 1 gym membership.
I would applaud, but that is the baseline. Like, I'm proud of you, but also thank you for hitting the basic expectations. So a lot of the questions were about, like, where you started. So I did actually get quite a few. Sometimes I expect that we will get none, but I got quite a few, and it was about like how you started as a coach and how you started in powerlifting. But I'm going to always hijack the conversation to what interests me, so fuck everyone. But when you started, did you immediately come into like strength training, or where was the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, so really weirdly, actually. So I battled anorexia from the age of 14 till my last relapse was at uni at 18. And during my last relapse of anorexia, I was really ill, my organs were failing, and the doctor basically said, like, you know, you're going to be kicked out of uni, hospitalized again if you don't sort your shit out. And weirdly, one of the things they said, which was like a really weird comment, but they were basically like, we need to, because I was diagnosed with osteoporosis.
Right.
Which obviously is not great because I didn't have my period for sort of those formative years. So they said, get into some strength training. And yeah, very weird advice to give to someone who was so underweight and ill, but it got me to the gym. And I started doing some dumbbell stuff, and I just weirdly loved it. And I was actually previously to the anorexia, I hated exercise, hated the gym, like was an absolute like exercise hater. And so I found this thing, I really got into it. And then I started training, and it massively was such a big part of my recovery that it helped me eat. I had a purpose, and I just found strength training immediately. And it wasn't long after, so I'd only really been sort of weight restored to sort of a healthy-ish weight throughout a year. And then there was a powerlifting team at my uni, and I kind of saw it, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. So I joined that, and yeah, literally less than a year and a half afterwards, I competed at my first event, and then just really fell in love with it. So yeah, I completely got straight into the strength side of it. And I think that's also where the bodybuilding side, like I have never once done any hypertrophy. I've never trained for aesthetics ever, which is quite evident if you see me. Like I don't look like I train, which is a common theme in people. Oh, she lifts, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, I know I don't look like it, it's okay. But yeah, so that's why, yeah, I've always just done strength, which I think was really cool, because for me at that point, it was focused so much on what I could do and not how I looked, which was obviously really healthy.
So did you find that, again, just going to hijack the conversation, screw the questions. So did you find that that transition for you was like 100% positive? So like, because if people don't know, like, I think some of the first reasons we ever spoke was because we both had that introduction from eating disorder to strength training. And it was a very positive contribution to moving away from one. But did you find there were any unhealthy habits by keeping strength training? So for myself, it would be like, if I didn't have a good session, food habits were back.
Yes, definitely. And there was, I think the one downside of powerlifting, which was a little bit of a struggle, was weight classes. Obviously, you have to know your weight, you have to know your weight class. And actually, one of the most triggering events since my sort of recovery was not quite making weight at an event. And I was like a kilogram or two over, and the judges were like, you're too heavy, you can't come in. I literally just stood there like half naked. Well, I was pretty much naked. Actually, I think I was naked, crying my eyes out, because obviously it was the first time that someone told me I was too heavy. And in reality, I was in a weight class that was, I was striving for a weight class that was actually, you know, I was 6 foot taller than all the other girls in this weight class, because I'm quite a lanky girl. So yeah, it was very evident I was not supposed to be this weight class. But yeah, that, I think that was the only time. But apart from that, honestly, it actually really didn't have a detrimental effect. I never really got obsessed with strength training. Like I really loved it and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't really see myself getting obsessed. And I generally do think it improved my food relationship so much. I guess in the early days, I didn't have a period where I wasn't strength training. So maybe, like, you're right, maybe if that got taken away early on, yeah, I might actually, you're right. To be fair, now I'm saying it, I'm like, yeah, for the first like 6 months of that recovery, I was pretty much eating just to lift.
Yeah, and I think it's like it plays out positively. So for myself, yourself, we had a very positive outcome, but it was very much a structure that was there, and that was all we had to fix the issue. You took that away. Like there was a very fragile relationship with it. And interestingly, as you say, so the chat I had yesterday, or as anyone listened to the podcast last week, it wasn't yesterday, we record these back to back. I spoke to Britt, and she moved from bodybuilding to powerlifting. And she was saying that the only negative thing she found was weight classes. And it's actually something that when we speak about powerlifting, we rarely go, oh yeah, but there is actually one mental health that's not so great straight away. And it is the instruction of being told you're too heavy, or like your body weight becomes a factor. Whereas in bodybuilding, it is just aesthetics, which has also got its issues, but being told you're too heavy.
Yeah, it's actually been really nice. So I actually don't weigh myself anymore. I have no, I mean, I roughly know how much I weigh, but I don't really know how much I weigh. And I would hazard a guess I'm a lot heavier than I probably think I am. And like, it's actually been really nice not to know how much I weigh, because I did definitely have a bad obsession with it. And I did get quite fixated by weight classes, which again were actually really unrealistic for me and were me just trying to keep my body weight down. Whereas in reality, like, again, I was not lifting anything spectacular. So it was pretty pointless to be so obsessed with the weight class when I was still going to be at best in the middle. So
when it comes to the people that come to work with you, what sort of people do you have like a demographic you tend to work with, or a type of goal they tend to have?
So when I was PTing, I trained like mostly men, which I really enjoyed. And I trained a lot of people like runners, doing more strength stuff alongside it. I did a lot of strength style stuff, and I did, which I really enjoyed. But moving online, I found a real passion for helping women who are struggling with like dieting or bad relationships with food. Again, I'm not an eating disorder therapist. I'm not a therapist. And I don't ever step that line, but just being able to get them a better body image and get themselves feeling confident in themselves again, maybe like after kids, or sort of just letting themselves be the bottom of the priority list. I really enjoy doing. And it's just been something that, yeah, is so rewarding. Like, it's so nice to see people generally feel better in their skin.
So one of the questions that was about your coaching specifically, which shows that they're looking at what you do as well, is how do you coach behavior change? So obviously a big part of weight loss for people, and that's a hell of a question to be asked to figure out on the spot how you're going to answer it. So crack on, good luck.
Everything I've ever coached in my entire life just flashed before my eyes, and I was like, what do I actually do?
What is my job?
Well, I'm just having a midlife crisis over here. But yeah, no, so it does vary on the individual, which is going to sound a bit like a cop-out answer, but it does vary on what the person's come to me with, what their behaviors are like. I have worked alongside therapists before, so sometimes I outsource like certain issues if I'm not sure on something, and I do have some like therapeutic handbooks that I use. So I've done my level 4 in mental health, and I've done some sort of extra training towards behavior change, so I do know a fair amount. So a lot of the time it's keeping things really, really simple, working out the root causes. I will sometimes have those conversations on why they think they're, have an emotion to food, or why they're using food for comfort, and we will kind of delve into that. And I think a lot of the time the reason I get good results from people's behavior changes because people trust me to tell me things. And again, I never overstep the line. I'm not a therapist. I cannot give you advice or suggestions, but I can listen. And I think people find that sometimes, a lot of the time, people just need someone that will listen, and that alone is enough for them to actually sort of soundboard their own ideas and go, oh, okay, actually, do you know what, that is why I'm doing this behavior, or this is why I'm self-sabotaging, or this is why I can't stick to this. And then they often find they can sort of change their behavior themselves. So sometimes just being a safe space for kind of soundboarding what's going on in someone's life can really be enough.
And so would you say for someone who's going, like, if they're, most people would be aware they have some sort of specific relationship with food or certain food and so on, would you say that's something that someone can address completely on their own, or that like working with someone like yourself is far more beneficial, or just more beneficial to an extent?
I think food's really hard, and I've always said this because like you have to face it every day, and you have to face it multiple times a day. And if you had like a bad relationship with alcohol or a bad relationship with drugs or something, again, I'm not saying it's an easier thing to have an issue with, but you can cut those substances out. You can get yourself in situations where you maybe avoid certain triggers, whereas food is around us all day every day, and it is impossible. You literally can't live without it. So I think people who struggle with their relationship with food in whatever sort of capacity, it's very easy, and I know you'll do as well, to sort of kid yourself, not realize how bad things are. It's very hard to be honest with yourself. Even now, I'm sure there probably are things that aren't. I mean, I'm trying to think of things, but my relationship with food is good, but I'm sure there's still behaviors that I probably aren't fully aware could be something to do with this, or I think it's really hard to be completely transparent and honest with yourself, which I think it is important to have an objective view on your behaviors. I've had it so many times with clients who are like, yeah, my relationship with food is good, and then I realize on their food diary that like all of their calories are coming past 9 p.m. at night or something, or they're eating all of their food from chocolate or whatever it is. And when I ask them about it, they're like, oh, I did not even realize I was doing that, or I didn't even realize I was having fish fingers off my child's plate, or whatever it was. So yeah, I do think it's one of those things that is quite, well, I think personally probably fairly, I'm not saying impossible, but very, very hard to kind of solve yourself.
I think, yeah, a lot of those factors are things that the reason they're a problem is because you're not self-aware. Like if you were self-aware, they wouldn't be as much of a problem. So having someone else just to be like, did you notice that you did that? Like it's almost similar in fucking stretch of a metaphor. So like if someone's filming your lift when you're lifting and you can physically see what's happening compared to how it feels, and going like, I'm not even going to tell you that's right or wrong, I'm just pointing out, can you see what's happening here? And maybe that just second eyes what people need sometimes. So one of the questions actually, which and I know why this was asked, so hopefully quite helpful to this person, if you have answers, be prepared, is do you have any tips on dealing with comfort eating?
Yeah, comfort eating is really hard. And I think the thing you need to realize is most of the time it is obviously emotional and it is from an emotion somewhere. So delving, like you said, self-awareness is key. Why are you comfort eating? What is the emotion? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it stress? Is it something? Try and find your triggers. And then a lot of the time we start comfort eating from the emotions. So maybe we feel we have a terrible day at work and we start comfort eating each night, but then it becomes habit. So often trying to break that habit is really, really strong. So next time you feel stressed or sad or whatever it is there something else you can do instead? So instead of immediately feeling a bit rubbish, going to get some Ben and Jerry's, or feeling a bit down and going to go get some chocolate, next time you feel a bit down, can you go for a walk? Can you bring a friend? Can you go and talk to someone, or do dance around your room, whatever it is? Try and like breaking that like immediate response from feeling a certain feeling, whatever that feeling was, which is why you're comfort eating, to eating is really, really powerful. And I also think don't feel like you need to do this overnight. If it's a habit, it's going to be quite hard to break. So even just, can you have pre-packaged chocolate bars that are 100 calories as opposed to eating 3 share bags? Are there things you can reach for that are comforting as well, until you are able to kind of break that habit? That are just a little, I realize how much I'm talking with my hands. No one can see this. I'm just there like.
Say that. I'm putting this on YouTube as well, so good luck.
Yeah. I should brush my hair if it's makeup. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Straight from the gym, you're fine.
I'm just spinning in my chair. People are going to be like, what is this girl doing? This is the real Liv. Yeah, so I think maybe even just having like a better option, or something that is more suiting for your goals, that will still give you a bit of comfort until you're able to break that cycle. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is finding other things that will give you that reward, or that thing that you're trying to solve, and really working out what that emotion is that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, so effectively what you're looking at then is taking the behavior and so if someone's angry, and that's like a kid who punches a wall versus someone who's angry and they go to eat something, what are the other things that you can replace? Even just trialing it, not saying it's the immediate fix, but just trial a different response. And like if you end up eating it the same, like afterwards, fine, you tried one, try another one another time and see if it fills that gap.
100%. And there will be times where you mess up, and to an extent, I think some comfort eating is kind of normal in society. I think you don't want to be a robot that never enjoys a piece of cake when they're feeling a bit sad, or when their friend buys them chocolate because they're feeling rubbish. Like you want to be able to have some. So to an extent, but obviously when it's becoming an issue and it's when food is your only source of comfort, that's when you really need to address it. And also just, yeah, working out what emotion is triggering it, working out those triggers, and working out how you can slowly replace them.
I like that of kind of distinguishing between what is comfort eating as a constant mechanism, a defense mechanism, or like resolving, and when it is like closer to binging or negative. Because it's not to say that like if there's a certain food that you eat and it makes you feel way better, that's not always a negative thing, but it's when that's becoming a detrimental behavior to everything else. Like some things might be okay. Like if it's okay, well, like genuinely, I know this is weird, like having this is one of my comforts. Like this is my, I know I'm going to chill out and have a chat and relax, as opposed to go have a coffee and be fucking wired.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's such a good point. I think there is a big like, yeah, you're never allowed to have chocolate for comfort. You're never allowed to have wine. You're never allowed to have these things. But actually, you're so right. Like to an extent, there, we all find comfort in food, and that's okay, and joy in food as well. And I think it's like you said, it's how you're eating it. It's fine to go to someone's party and have some chocolate and have some pizza and have whatever's around. It's less fine to sit in your car late at night feeling rubbish, listening to Celine Dion and eating share bags of chocolate, which is something I can say that I have definitely
throwback. Either the most specific example ever, or so one of the questions from the same person as well. Now this person's a teacher, and so they're asking if you could tell a year 10 or 11 I don't know how old that is. How old's year 10 or 11?
That must be, that's 15, 16.
15, 16. So when in your past self, the history you had that was like the difficult times that led you to strength training and so on, what sort of age were you at that point?
So I was diagnosed with anorexia and depression at 14.
At 14, okay. So I'm gonna ask you two different questions. So one of them is a really tricky fucker of a question that I quite enjoy. The other one is so if you were to give advice to students around that age of one thing around health as a whole, is there any one bit of generic advice you would give?
So this is not to students, and this might sound like, again, that I'm not answering the question. In my head I am, but I generally think the whole curriculum towards exercise and health is horrendous, like so bad. I honestly think there is such a lack of actual education around nutrition. There is, I remember being taught some of the most irrelevant things about food. I remember being taught like good and bad food and just nothing of any use. I think PE was terrible. I got so badly bullied in PE, so I write a sick note for every single lesson because I didn't want to play the rounders and hockey that the guys were playing because I got bullied for them, and there was no other alternative. There was nothing, like there was no gym sessions or anything else. And I think there is a massive lack of understanding that most people will, I'm a firm believer that pretty much everyone, there'll be some form of movement that they enjoy, and that looks really different. Some people like walking, some people like yoga, some people like spin classes, some people like lifting. There is no one size fit all, and I think the curriculum is really bad at kind of putting kids in boxes and trying to make them do something, and that's why a lot of kids hate exercise, and that's why I absolutely loathed it. But I think in terms of like 15-16-year-olds is realizing that your body is unique, and it's never going to look like anyone else's, it's never going to perform like anyone else's, and working on finding that passion for the way of moving that excites you, I think at that age is really important.
The thing you said that I think is really good. So I'm going to interrupt you for a second, but the about the fact that, so I didn't go to any of my PE lessons. I despised it, but also because I was bullied by so many people in those sports, and it was in those classes, and they made us do group sports every time. And when you fucking hate everyone else doing it, you don't want to take part. So I think one of the things that, and not a piece of advice I thought of when you initially said this, but is like, just because you don't like PE and you don't like what you're being taught doesn't mean you don't like the world of health and fitness. You may well actually love something outside of it. That might just be a bracket they're giving you, and it's a very small image of it all. I
think that's such good advice. Like, do not feel like you have to like rounders or badminton, because you're so right. Like, neither of us, I generally, I'm sure my parents at times have been like, I cannot, like, I had an old PE teacher literally was like, I cannot believe that you are now an online fitness coach. Like, literally, this baffles my mind because you never did a single PE lesson in the entirety of school. And I had a bad leg or a period like every bloody week.
I had a cast I used to take in that definitely wasn't for an injury. I'm like, I can't do it. Broken hand for the 4th week in a row. Mad.
That's good. I never got that. I just started forging letters, which were so obvious because my handwriting is so distinguishedly terrible that they 100% it was me.
Those teachers just gave up. They're like, they know it's you, but they don't want to see it.
No, I think they felt sorry for me, which is fair.
So one of the other question that was on this that I kind of want to ask you is, you've probably had this question in interviews or chats with people and be like, what advice would you give your younger self? Which I have a big issue with the question because it's so loaded to correct things that, like, so your history with anorexia and what you went through, your history with bullying and understanding of those things, or difficulties with food, difficulties with people even, has fully shaped you to who you are now. Like, in the least patronizing way I can say a sentence, I genuinely find you much more motivating, inspiring, and true as a person because of the experiences you've had. So would you give advice to your younger self, or would you let yourself go through it all again?
I was thinking this, I actually had this conversation the other day because there was a few big things that happened that kind of led me to ending up in this part of the world and like reinventing my life and going online and all these sort of things. And I remember saying, I said like literally this morning to my friend, I was like, I actually at the time was horrendous, but I wouldn't have changed any of it because this is where I'm supposed to be, this is who I'm supposed to be. And you're so right. I think I would not be an online coach if I hadn't gone through the eating disorder and my love for strength training, and I probably wouldn't have found that if I hadn't. Whilst it was terrible, and there were so many times where I didn't think I'd make it to this age, and like I generally, I'm sometimes like, oh my god, I'm still here, it's cool, like pretty against the odds, which is cool. But I think, I wouldn't be a good coach because I wouldn't have the understanding and the empathy, which I think is one of the things that I am very good at. Is I get how it feels to be overweight, I get how it feels to be underweight, I get how it feels for both areas. And so I do you know what? I wouldn't. Which is really sad to think of, like, sad 14-year-old Liv and be like, mate, you've got a few years ahead of you.
So there's and the reason it comes about initially to me is, so NF is an artist that I'm obsessed with. If anyone's seen my stuff online, and I have a tattoo from him, and there's one of his songs that has this line of talking to his younger self and just saying, I want to warn you, life is hard. And then it's like, that's it. Like, that's about as good as the advice gets. And I like, there's been so many things that I think if I'd stopped happening to myself, wouldn't be where I am. And then you think of your younger self and you're like, oh, you poor bastard. I'm so sorry for what's coming.
But then you're so right. Like, you know, now I am so happy. I love my job. Genuinely, like, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, like, so grateful every single day that I am here and doing what I love. And I have so much gratitude. And I feel like it's nice to think that, like, 14-year-old Liv would get to this point, even if you're right, the years in between at points were fucking grim.
There's something that I talk to Rachel about. I don't talk publicly about as much because it doesn't sound great, but it's this idea of, like, I take a degree of pride in suffering. I always think that there's something beautiful about suffering, and something almost always positive comes off the back of it. And so there's this bit of me that has always found quite interesting, and this probably divides people to an extent, of how much should you help someone past how much should you just, like, be there when they suffer, as opposed to trying to avoid it. And I think about it because we've spoken about, like, if we were to ever have kids and how you parent and the fear of the world they're coming into, like, we know how hard it can be in areas, and going, like, how much should I try to save, and how much should I, like, you need that suffering, that's good for you, and as much as that's awful.
That's really interesting. And again, something I said this to my therapist not that long ago. I said, like, I am terrified of having kids because my parents did an amazing job, and yet I'm sat here in therapy 10 years after I started therapy, like, which sometimes to me I'm a bit like, this is like, do you know what I mean? My parents didn't look like they were amazing, and yet I'm still slightly fucked at times, and therefore it does scare me. But you're so right. I think there is a lot at which you need to sometimes let someone make their own mistakes, and I think as a parent that must be really hard. I mean, I'm hoping you won't just, you know, let your kid walk out in front of a road or something. There's a level of suffering in which you're like,
Kill you.
But yeah, I do think sometimes you're right. Like, sadly, it is the suffering that makes us who we are, which, you know, yeah.
But it's interesting with in the world of coaching that, so there are clients who they'll come up against the hardship, and it's not trying to hide it and pretend it's all positive, because I think I had a chat this morning that's kind of inspired me wanting to bring this one up, but where they said they've been gaining weight for a while, which is a really interesting experience for a lot of people. It really varies how you take it, but there is unquestionably going to be a bad day at some point. Like, no one feels good every day. At some point you're going to feel more bloated than you wanted to, and it's going to have a negative impression. And that day was today, and I was like, good, this is that day, and we have a very good training session where you've been stronger than you've ever been, and we have other variables to look at, and this day was coming, and you've told me the positives around it, and, like, we finally had that day. Think how many days we got away with. Like, that's fucking great. And you need to have these days so we can have the good ones again afterwards. I'm not going to tell you everything's rosy every day. I can't save you from the world.
Yeah, so true. Same thing. I completely get that with people gaining weight, and also with people losing weight. There's only an extent at which at some point the diet's going to be a bit rubbish and you're going to feel tired and hungry, and I can't do anything about that. I have not got a magic wand. You're going to feel that way, and you're right. Sometimes actually, you're so right as well with the whole, like, to have the good days, you've got to have the bad days. And that's why I'm so grateful for life now, because there have been so many times that have been so shit that this feels so nice, that things are so good. So yeah, you are right.
Well, I finally got this painting on a wall that says this will happen for a reason, and it's just trying to be as a life ethos of going, like, this finally hit a point where I'm like, you know what, fuck it. It was worth it.
Which is really good, and that's a nice place to be, and I like that.
So another question you got, and these are all for you, which is really nice. No one asked me a question. It's weird being the interviewer now. I'm adjusting. If you could change one thing about the fitness industry, and only one, what would it be?
Oh, so many things come to light. Do you know what? I love the fitness industry because, again, that is both our passions, and I have loved the impact I've had on people, and I don't actually know if I'd be here without the fitness industry. So therefore, like, I don't want to sit here and be like, I fucking hate the fitness industry. But there are a lot of things that do still annoy me. I think we can't, I mean, kind of mentioned this a bit on my podcast, but people that see the fitness industry just as financial gain and quick money and moving to Dubai and getting their sports car, and that's the world of online coaching. And I think people really forget like the actual impact and the numbers behind it, and the people behind it, not the numbers behind it. And people just put myself on people there. People forget, like, you know, the real point of the fitness industry is to help people and change their lives and improve people's health and fitness, which is one of the arguably most important things you could do. And I think sometimes how money takes over in the fitness industry annoys me.
Completely fair. So a question with that then, again, hijacking of, so obviously you've built up now an online business, and you, as far as I know, you seem very successful. You seem like you're doing really well. So one of the things I want to talk about is like where you see it going for you in this industry. Is it something you've hit what you want to do, this is it? Or is it something that, because obviously, as we know, I've been friends with you on social media for however long now, but it's all changed massively in the last, so the 10 years for me, I tried to do a thing of where it started to where it is now, and it's a world apart. How do you see things in the future for yourself within the industry?
So when I joined and I started competing, I had a really clear roadmap of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I've always been a bit of a perfectionist and a bit of an overachiever, which is probably what's led to me completely destroying myself at points for my degree, which again, I'm not using my degree. Why did I need to work so hard? Absolutely. Like, I have a geography degree, the most pointless degree on the planet. Like, and I killed myself at points because I'm so obsessed with being better. And this is the first time in my life where I don't know if I need to do more, or whether it would just be that kind of greed and that kind of, like, I look at my life and, you know, I've got my spinny chair and I'm just like, that's kind of all I need, you know. I love what I do. I can sit in my spinny chair all day. I've got a little whiteboard, which makes me very happy. And I do, of course, there's, you know, I want to grow more and I want to help more people, but I'm not sure if that necessarily looks like taking on other clients and taking on other brands and other things. Like, I love my brand. I love what I do. I know I give a good service. So I'm kind of looking at expanding and helping how I can help other people without it just being like, oh, I'm going to take on 100 clients, 200 clients, 700. I'm going to take all the money and be that girl in Dubai. So yeah, I'm actually starting, and we are in the process of getting there finally, of starting a charity in the Southwest, and I'm hoping to look to do more things that can help more people in, like, and give back more, because I think that to me is what brings me so much joy and so much reward. And I'm not going to sit here like a martyr and say I don't like making money, because obviously, again, I have my spinny chair to pay for and things that I need to do. But I think when I started the industry, I wanted to be that person who was making 12 figures online, because I just have to be the best at everything. And I wanted to be that person that was covered in designer handbags at the airport, taking their picture on their way to somewhere cool. But actually, that doesn't make me happy. And I think for me, like, I will continue to build my brand in a sustainable way that I think is big enough, but I don't think I want that like world leading kind of like good conglomerate that I thought I wanted. And actually, that's quite nice to know that maybe I was doing that for the wrong reason. So maybe I don't have to be the biggest, well-knownest online coach on the planet to still be a good online coach and help people and have a good life.
Love that for an answer. So is there any way that because one of the things I found that, like, when I started with online coaching, it was very much a local community. I didn't really need to reach out. Like, now I'm coaching in Taiwan and America, social media is needed. But the way social media keeps growing and with it ever saturating as a market, do you find that you've had to change how you present yourself, or is that something you've always stayed the same with?
Yeah, I think if anything, I've definitely felt like I need to be better on social media and post more and be more consistent and show myself up more. In full transparency, I would delete Instagram tomorrow if I could. I hate it. I hate social media. I am like, I'm in the body of a 24-year-old, but I'm also like a 90-year-old grumpy man in my head. And I just want to sit on my little deck chair, chatting shit about the world. I don't know, like I generally would love to be not on social media so much of the time. And therefore, I think I want to get to the point in my business where maybe I can take that step backwards and maybe just, my brand will be enough. Because you're right, like at the minute, I do feel like I have to be the brand, which is fine. And there are great parts to it. But I do think I've had to get more comfortable in putting more of myself out there, definitely.
I think that's been something that and I'm trying to do more of now, and I wish I was doing less. But it used to be, and as you say, so your brand is you are the name, and mine used to be, and I've moved it now to being named something else, so that I don't feel like I'm responsible for the face of it anymore. But it still is that, like, I like having the things I hate: client testimonials, client footage of what they're doing. I'm like, there gets to a point, and when you're good at your job, there's a line that you don't want to say, which is, I'm just good at my job, stop making me show it. Like, it really fucks you off. It gets to a point where you're like, I don't want to post the feedback every time. I just want to talk to my client. I don't want to post the PB. Let them do it. I'm not interested in what the world thinks of it anymore. And that's probably the hard line where it's, you, like, I've seen your work. I know you're good at your job. Anyone that goes look at your stuff, your results speak for themselves. But it's that irritation of going to stay not just relevant, but to show that you're not just another PT pretending to be an online coach. Here is the work I can do. I do genuinely do this.
Yeah, it's that kind of like over proving sometimes, which you're so right. Like I am so conscious. I'm like, I haven't posted 3 transformations this week, and therefore people will forget that I actually do this. But whereas like my whole business is happening without me posting about it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's why. So we've got a separate page now for DVD, and I'm like, all client stuff on there, everything. And I might share stuff from my story. I might not. I'm not really fussed anymore, but it's trying to be the other side of that line and go, we're good at this. It's okay. Reputation speaks for itself. Don't feel like you need to show the world.
And I do think you do a good job of that. And people, again, like people buy into you, they buy into your life. They love to see you. And you've obviously got like that creative element with really nice pictures, and like the pictures you and Rachel took on that like event you did, like that's so nice for people to see, and people love that kind of thing. I am not artistic, so my stories do not look anything like that. So anyone who is new to following me, do not expect that level of creativity.
It's got a spinny chair, guys, and it's sick.
It's like slightly blurry and off center, but you know, I try. So
this is just gonna be titled as the spinny chair of fitness.
I can't believe it's recorded. I just can't stop. That's the thing. I literally can't stop.
There's something about just being comfortable. Like, this is all. Bear in mind, anyone who watches this bit on YouTube, this is our offices, and we live in this space. Like, it gets to a point. It's the small things that make you happy.
Well, I did. So I've been in this flat for 16 months. I've sat on the same shitty cardboard, well, not cardboard, rubbish chair, wooden chair for so long, and I kept getting backache, and I was like, why am I getting backache? And then one day I was like, I'm sat on the worst chair possible for so long each day. And so yeah, this was the best investment I've ever made. It was a bit of a faff putting together because I cannot follow simple instructions on like flat pack furniture. That stuff is not for me, but we did put it together. I think I'm also just proud I managed to actually put it together.
It's just the pride in the IKEA furniture flat pack life.
It's gonna fall over and I'll be like, okay, I spoke to you soon.
So completely unrelated to the serious stuff, because that is Instagram, is it not? 2 questions that are just absolutely fabulous. What would be your death row meal?
So someone asked me this because obviously I'm doing a bodybuilding show in 15 weeks, and everyone was like, what are you going to eat after the show? And I was like,
have they compared prep to death row?
Yeah, to be fair, I'm so early days at the minute. It's fine. I'm like, I'm far too chill. I'm like, yes, it's fine. I've got this. Whereas, yeah, I'm sure the last few weeks I'll be like, this is death row. No, I'm obviously not comparing the two for anyone that. But yeah, I feel like because I'm a bit of a random eclectic person, it would be like a really random meal where the guards would just be like, what is this girl doing? But I think it'd probably be maybe like, I really love sushi, so maybe some sushi for like starter. I love some good sushi. And then for like a main, that is really hard actually. I mean, it would have to be like a good steak and chips and some veg and like some good sort of, yeah. And then desserts, I am the world's biggest chocoholic. So I've actually got my friends to buy me some Easter eggs for after the show, because that's the one thing I'm quite sad that I can't eat. Something like warm cookie dough, chocolate, I don't know, something just disgustingly chocolate, like just chocolate.
I come directly from the gym. I am so hungry and this has killed me. Fuck this question. Okay, so the other one, and I remember this from our training days, so I know what you'll answer, but still, shag, marry, kill, squat, bench, deadlift.
I feel like my opinions have changed probably slightly since I started bodybuilding, but no, actually no, they have not at all. Kill squats, shag bench, marry deadlift.
Gotta be marry deadlift. I'm not a big fan of it anymore. At the moment, it's killing me, but I think I still.
Nothing. Weird part of your marriage.
I think I'm going to scrap the other questions. No, it's likely that I'm going to ask you a few times if you want to jump on these, because as is quite evident, we see eye to eye on quite a lot of stuff, and similar realm with the online industries. And I like that there's a little bit more real life chats when we have a talk about this stuff of, your coaches aren't always like, are human beings, and there's some of the reality behind it all. spinny chairs.
Yeah, I had someone say this to me the other day, because I think on Instagram I am quite not bad for it, but I do come across, you know, very professional and formal, and so it's just kind of not on purpose, but I guess that is obviously what I'm trying to portray, and that is obviously what the client wants. But my friend, client said this to me the other day, she was like, your podcast is so you, and that's what I love, is like you are completely you, and sometimes you knock something over and you can hear it on the podcast and you just swear and get back together. And she was like, that's the good thing about podcasts, and I'm sure you're the same, is I kind of just use it as like a safe little diary of secret people listening to my actual thoughts and beliefs.
I hope it never grows too big and too many people listening to this being like, this fucking guy. I'm like, no, you're supposed to know me.
Yeah, this is only for close friends. Please don't listen.
I might just start posting this on close friends. It's not even public anymore.
Yeah, it's only for people that I care about.
And on that, but I will leave it there for the time being. If you're happy, no questions to add.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It was absolutely lovely. You managed to keep this one to about 40 minutes. We did okay. Beautiful. This was episode 4. We will likely see Liv again for another episode, and we will just discuss IKEA furniture. That's all it will be. Thank you very much for listening, and you can subscribe and the rest of it. And I still don't know what it is yet, so I'll leave it there.